For Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ollie. Spring begins tomorrow. It does. Spring begins tomorrow. How cool is that? Heard something good today as well. Weather forecast for the next few days. 15, 16 degrees here in Manchester. Not bad at all, I say. It is Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. I'm Richie Allen. Who else? Welcome to the show.
Welcome back to the most listened to independent radio show in Europe. It's your Richie Allen Show. It's the Richie Allen Show. Broadcasting live on richieallen.co.uk and multiple platforms around the world. And now, here's your host, Richie Allen.
Now, coming up in the second hour, I welcome to the program for the first time the citizen journalist, the vlogger, Cassie Crowhurst. I'm looking forward to speaking with Cassie. I've had a couple of conversations with her over the last couple of days. She blogs or vlogs even to a very healthy audience about all things spiritual, health, and also law and order and crime and current affairs. Interesting lady. We're going to be talking about swimming lessons for naturists that involve children, which raised a lot of concerns among listeners to this program over a week ago. We'll talk about issues around protecting children, but we'll also talk about, because Cassie is a mom even, we'd say mammy in Ireland, to children, including a 6-year-old. We'll talk about sex education for children in primary schools as well. So I'm looking forward to that. That's an hour or two. Before that, groups like Jewdas and Momentum continue to stalk the author and legendary jazz saxophonist Gilad Atzmon around the country, trying to have his jazz gigs banned because of his opinions about Jewish identity. It's not funny, this. He's an old pal. We'll catch up with Gilad Atzmon this hour. It is Tuesday's Richie Allen Show. Nothing in the world like it. Thanks for listening. Do tweet the program at Richie Allen Show between now and the end of it. I thought it's just brilliant, isn't it? You never practice that. I don't, actually. Good to be with you as always. Now, let's jump straight into some of the Brexit issues that have raised their heads today. Let's do the Brexit fringe issues first. Should have a jingle for that. Brexit fringe issues. Brexit fringe! Brexit fringe! Brexit fringe on the Richie Allen Show. Brexit fringe. There was a court case today in London involving a man from Altrincham, Greater Manchester, which is just down the road from here. James Goddard. Do you remember him? Do you remember a few weeks ago when the news organisations first began broadcasting at Westminster? Do you remember? And they were being heckled. And not only were they being heckled, but also politicians and journalists were being heckled. Owen Jones was heckled, little Owen Jones. And Anna Soubry, former Conservative Party MP, now a member of the Independent Group, she was heckled as well. Well, a man has been charged with harassing her, James Goddard from Altrincham, and he was in court today, but the court case was adjourned because his supporters in the gallery began shouting and singing, calling Anna Soubry a Nazi and a traitor. Sounds like there was a proper ruckus in the court in London today. He's pleaded not guilty, and it has been adjourned until the 19th of July when a 2-day trial will take place. He was charged with causing harassment between the 18th of December and the 7th of January, racially aggravated harassment, alarm or distress, and it's about Anna Soubry because he followed her and was speaking with her with a raised voice and was filming her. He said in the court, it's not illegal to heckle an MP. All of this is wrong. We'll keep an eye on that particular court case, because it throws up all manner of issues around free speech, free movement, and all the rest of it. So I don't approve of people screaming at people that you're a Nazi. I'd rather you engaged with them. I know, Anna Soubry is hardly likely to engage with James Goddard. But calling people names, I know, what a hypocrite you are, Richie. I know. I say some funny things, or at least I think they're funny. And of course, if I think they're funny, they're not really funny, about people on this programme. But I've never gone up to somebody in the street and roared at them and called them names. I wouldn't do that. I don't know what's going on. We'll follow that anyway. Theresa May, the Prime Minister, is writing to the European Union to ask for Brexit to be postponed until June 30th with the option of a longer delay. Laura Kuenssberg, the BBC's political editor, has been told by ministers that there was no agreement around the cabinet table about the length of the delay and all the rest of it. So it's a big, massive mess. As it stands, the UK will leave the European Union in 10 days' time. It won't, of course. You and I both know that. The Prime Minister is saying the UK will need a short extension to get her legislation through Parliament if members of Parliament back her withdrawal deal. Speaker of the House John Bercow said yesterday she can't come back with the same deal. That if she comes back with nothing substantially new, he won't allow a vote go before Parliament. What a mess. Kay Burley, the ginger ninja. And my secret crush, Kay Burley, is fed up. She's fed up, I tells you. Go on, Kay.
This can't go on, Beth. It cannot go on like this. Literally, the country is in stalemate. Even Number 10 is accepting that we're heading towards a crisis.
No. Yes, Kay. It can't go on. This cannot go on. So she was speaking with Sky's incoming political editor, Beth Rigby. What did Beth Rigby say? Well, Beth says that we're heading for a much longer extension than people think. Beth Rigby.
In the Prime Minister's spokesperson said in lobby today when he was addressing journalists that the Prime Minister warned that there would be a crisis if her deal didn't pass, and here we are in a crisis. Now, a lot of her parliamentarians would say, actually, we didn't have to end here. It's because you weren't imaginative, you wouldn't compromise. Parliament have told you twice that we don't like this deal. And I think where we're heading for really is for a long extension potentially to Article 50. And many Brexiteers will not want that. Many members of the public won't want that. But Parliament are in agreement on one thing. They do not want a no-deal Brexit, and neither do I think does the Prime Minister. So it could go right down to the wire with horse trading right at the end of the next week between the Prime Minister and the EU. But the next step will be the European Council, and now we're waiting to hear what is she going to propose to them as to the extension. How long will it be, and also will they grant it?
Yeah, they'll grant it, and the extension will be very long. Going nowhere. Going nowhere. We're going nowhere. Extension on the extension, on top of the extension. Article 50 suspended, people's vote. Load of fear stories in the press today, by the way, about medicine shortages. That we'll run out of medicine if we leave with no deal in 10 days. I know that isn't a new story. It's just a recycled one. It's a recycled one. Fear, 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 fear. If we don't do something to stop Article 50, we will end up with a catastrophic shortage of certain medicines. It's all lies. The European Union is secretly terrified of the prospect of the UK leaving with no deal. Listen to the German Minister for European Affairs, a man called Michael Roth. He gives it to us straight between the eyes. Minister for European Affairs for Deutschland, Michael Roth.
The clock is ticking and time is running out, and we are really exhausted by these negotiations, and I expect clear and precise proposals of the British government why such an extension is necessary. It's not just a game. It's an extremely serious situation, not just for the people in United Kingdom, but also for the people in the EU, in the European Union. And for my government, it's the
Listen up now.
It's the key priority to prevent a no-deal Brexit.
Yeah, it's the key priority for Germany to prevent a no-deal Brexit. Why? Why? Because if the UK walked away, no negotiation, like we should have done 2.5 years ago, the minute the UK walks away, Siemens, Daimler, Volkswagen, Mercedes, BMW, that's BMW, Merck, to name only a few, Audi, would contact Angela Merkel and say, "You Dummkopf, you left them leave with no deal, and now you've been threatening them. Get on the phone to London and tell them you'll do a free trade deal with them in a heartbeat. Mutually beneficial, no tariffs. If you don't do that, Angela, we'll have you killed. This is true, by the way. It's not a joke. If we left tomorrow, told Brussels to feck off, they would be on the phone in an hour. Okay. Let's talk. Please, let's talk. Because of the huge trade deficit between the continent and the United Kingdom. Trade deficit, Richie? Yes. They sell far more to the UK than the UK sells to them. They've more to lose. Had a bit of a laugh this afternoon, dear listener. Scottish National Party leader in Westminster is a guy called Ian Blackford. Proper Domkopf. Love that word. He was on Sky to say that the Scottish National Party and the Greens and others had met with Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn to persuade Jezza to back the people's vote, to back it properly, to make it the next priority. Apparently Jezza is not playing ball. But anyway, Ian Blackford then told Kay Burley that Scotland would not be dragged out of the European Union against her wishes. That Indy Ref 2, that's the second independence referendum in Scotland, looms large in the near future. But then Kay Burley had him for breakfast.
Well, the first referendum was in different circumstances, and we were promised in 2014 if we stayed in the UK then our rights as EU citizens would be respected. It looks at the moment as we're going to be dragged out against our will. I believe that Scotland has changed. I believe that Brexit has changed everything. And the argument that we'll have will be one about protecting the economic interest of the people of Scotland.
So you would accept the euro and say goodbye to sterling?
No, because there's no proposition
as you
to
know,
do that.
you need, if you are a new country joining the European Union, you have to accept the euro. Yes, you do.
No, we don't, Kate.
Yes, you do.
Well, let me explain that to you because it's
don't mansplain it to me because
yes.
but this is really important.
The latest we're hearing, when I've been speaking to legal advisors, if I may finish my question and then you could answer it.
Don't mansplain it to me. I was moved to tears by Kay Burley there. The criticism I've levelled at that woman over the years and her at least perceived on my behalf, ineptitude to do her job. I stood and clapped in an empty room. So moved was I that I called Kay up. It was emotional.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself.
Yes, Kay. Fantastic. Blackford is lying through his teeth. Brilliant stuff. Don't mansplain me, boy. I've got the goods on you. You've got to join the euro. More on that in a minute. Kay, asked him a question then.
The European advisors is telling us any new country that joins the European Union has to adopt the euro.
This is a fact now.
There is a rider to that.
There's no rider.
To join the euro, you have to join the exchange rate mechanism too as a transition for that, and you have to be in the exchange rate mechanism for 2 years. Joining the exchange rate mechanism is entirely voluntary. You can't be forced into the euro against your will. The last 3 countries that have joined the EU have not joined the euro. You can't be forced into doing so.
So why would you want to stay with the pound?
We will be keeping the pound because it's in the best interests of the people of Scotland that we do that. We will have a debate at the SNP conference in a few weeks on this issue. I think it's right that we have that situation that we keep the pound. It is one that will help facilitate trade. We don't have to do so because we would do that by establishing our own monetary institutes, by establishing a central bank. We will continue to use the pound as we can rightly do so anyway. We don't need the authority of the Bank of England or the Treasury of the UK government to do so.
Yeah, he's talking through his arse there. It's a fact. There isn't a particular timetable for a new country to join the euro, but the country has to join the single currency. New countries, and this has been enshrined in European law. It's a fact. It's a nonsense. Forget the exchange rate mechanism and all that crap that Blackford talked about there. If Scotland was to leave the UK and was to apply to join the European Union, it would not be admitted unless it accepted membership of the single currency. This is a fact. He talked there about Scotland's own central bank. Yes, that would of course be totally controlled by the European Central Bank. Scotland would be raped if it were to join the European Union. This is the thing. We want independence. Right, what are you going to do with it? Give it to Brussels. Yeah, we'll give it to Brussels. We'll give Brussels complete control over Scotland's fiscal policies, over our budgets. We will take billions of euro worth of loans from the European Central Bank to improve our infrastructure and our roads. Money that we will never be able to pay back. And then Brussels will come in. The Troika will come in, the IMF, the ECB, and the European Union itself, which makes up the Troika, and will cherry pick, acid strip, mine, rape, pillage and plunder everything that's good and everything that's valuable in Scotland. It's what they do. This is what the European Union does. What a liar Blackford is. Scotland, independence. Yes, I could support it all day long. Why not? I'm an Irishman, of course. But to join the Euro, to join the European Union and then join the Euro, come on. Wake up to it, what's going on. Moving on, it's 19 minutes past 5. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has vowed never to say the name of the Christchurch mosque gunman. You've probably heard this today if you've been listening to the news. The shootings on Friday have left 50 people dead and many more wounded. Brenton Tarrant, who's 28, has been charged with murder. A self-described white supremacist, apparently. Jacinda Ardern explaining why she doesn't want to ever speak his name aloud ever again.
He sought many things from his act of terror, but one was notoriety. And that is why you will never hear me mention his name. He is a terrorist. He is a criminal. He is an extremist. But he will, when I speak, be nameless. And to others I implore you, speak the names of those who were lost, rather than the name of the man who took them. He may have sought notoriety, but we in New Zealand will give him nothing, not even his name.
It's very Monty Python-esque, isn't it? Next it'll be against the law and punishable by death to say Brenton Tarrant. It'd be like if you're in New Zealand. Hey, whatever happened to Brenton Tarrant?
Blasphemy! He said it again! Did you hear him?
It's a mad world, dear listener. It's a bloody mad world. It's a mad world. This is the Richie Allen Show, live on Fab Radio 2, triggerwarning.tv, my website, and plenty of other places. We're going to be speaking with Gilad Atzmon in a couple of minutes' time. Keep the tweets coming in. Tuesday's programme, March 19th, 2019. Welcome to it. Thanks for joining me. Music from Dodgy on the Richie Allen Show. Tuesday show, 24 minutes past 5 it is. That's if you're listening to the live show, of course. You could be listening to a repeat. Then it won't be 25 minutes past 5. Or it might be. Maybe it's always 25 minutes past 5. Massive interest in this. Jeremy Corbyn faces a vote of no confidence by the Jewish Labour movement. This will be debated next month sometime. This has been going on forever now. Accusations of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party by people outside the Labour Party, usually Jewish groups or Zionist groups outside of the UK. When I say usually Jewish groups, there are an enormous amount of Jewish people. There is a huge body of Jewish people in this country, I would say the silent majority, whose opinion is not being listened to and is not being heard. I understand a group of more than 300 Jews wrote a letter to the Guardian newspaper supporting Jeremy Corbyn, and the letter wasn't published. My next guest is a friend of mine and an old friend of the programme's. He's a gifted, truly special jazz saxophonist, a brilliant virtuoso performer. He's also a terrific writer. I think he's a philosopher, writes about things like Jewish identity politics. He's Israeli born, of course. He's had to put up with, for some time now, groups of people trying to, well, basically tear him down, to stop him performing at venues around the UK with the Blockheads, a band whom he's played with for many, many, many years, and with other groups and jazz ensembles. Groups like Jewdas and Momentum chasing him around the country. There must be something very wrong with that. There must be some law that's being broken there, that somebody can be chased and harassed and threatened in the way that he's being threatened. Anyway, let's welcome him back to the programme. Gilad Atzmon, welcome back, mate. How are you?
Hello, brother. I'm very happy to be with you. It has been a while. Can you hear me properly?
I can hear you properly. Yeah, you're sounding well. You're sounding strong. It has been a while. Lots has been going on, and you continue to be, And I know you take this with a big pinch of salt, and I know you've got a great sense of humour, but for a lot of us, it looks like it's an enormous amount of pressure to have to deal with when you're getting ready to do a show. Now, I'm not a musician, but I live with one. I know the pressure the performers are under to prepare themselves mentally to deliver for a paying audience, to be dealing with the sort of shit that you're dealing with as well in the run-up to performances. It must be getting you down on some level.
I can't say that it is getting me down. In a way, it confirms everything I've been saying for years. I think that British people have now a great opportunity to see what Labour under Momentum or even Corbyn may feel like. It is authoritarian, it's tyrannical, it's lawless, and I think that I feel it as if it is kind of it's my karma to bring this truth out, and I'm not afraid of it because I've never been fearful of the truth. I agree with Hegel that truth will set you free. And actually, it's not just Hegel, it's maybe it's the most fundamental idea of Christianity. And for me, it is a great opportunity. And one way more important thing for me is to find out that I am not alone. What happened last Friday was pretty shocking for me because...
Tell us what happened, Gilad. What happened last Friday for people who've not followed it?
For 4 or 5 days since the beginning of the week, I realized that a group called Jewdas, they call themselves Diaspora Jews, decided to picket my concert at the Vortex. Now, I'm playing in the Vortex 25, 30 years. I'm probably one of the most successful artists to play there, if not the most successful. I always pack the place. Another thing, the director of the Vortex, one of the two directors, is a Jew, offshoots of Holocaust family, family who lost people in the Holocaust. His parents, I think, came to this country with the Kinder transport. We worked together for years, as you probably know. My band is half Jewish. So, people within the jazz industry, my audience, they are laughing at it. They are laughing at all those kind of attempts. The blockheads is partly Jewish. The promoter who booked us in the gig in Islington was a Jew. So nobody really takes it seriously. Anyway, we realized that Jewdas, this group, called for a picket. It took one day for Momentum. And Momentum is basically supposedly the grassroots campaign group that supports Corbyn, joined in and called its members to go and protest the antisemite Gilad Atzmon. And next day it was Owen Jones who called his supporters to go and stop the Nazi jazz or Nazi jazz apologist or whatever. I don't remember exactly how he called it.
Did he turn up, by the way, Owen Jones?
He what?
Did he turn up? No, of course not. No, it's wonderful, isn't it? Yeah, he didn't turn up. Lovely.
Exactly. Not only that he didn't turn up, he ended up hiding his call. What happened from that point onward? Owen Jones had something like 350 comments on his Facebook, people telling him that he's a complete moron, compromised idiot, people who are his followers, I knew 2 or 3 of them, that's all. And people tell him how disappointed they were. Momentum got kind of many. I don't know how many because I don't have any access to their files. But
hundreds. They got hundreds of tweets from people saying they were sickened and disgusted that a musician would be harassed in that way. Yeah. Hundreds of tweets.
There was a mass exodus of people who left Momentum because of that. I heard also the Jewdas were completely split. While they promised us that there will be 100 people in the pickets, it was very clear to them on Friday that they are alone, that they are talking about 4 or 5 people. Because Momentum, the grassroots people did refuse to support it, and the same applies to many of even the Judases. At 4 o'clock, I don't know if you know about it, at 4 o'clock on Friday, the gig was supposed to start at 9. At 4 o'clock on Friday, these compromised lunatics at Momentum realized that they don't have a picket. It's a huge fiasco. They, rather than canceling it, they gave it one more go. What they did, they joined the picket with a new event. They said that the picket is now joined with an event of mourning for this horrible massacre that took place in New Zealand.
Hang on a second. I didn't know this. Can you say this with certainty? This group Momentum, having no or virtually only a handful of morons turning up at the Vortex to protest you, realising that they've got really nothing going for them. They then tried to bring people out on the pretense that it's about paying respect, candlelight vigil for the victims in New Zealand. Can you say that for a fact? Because they're not here to dispute that. Is that true? How can you prove that?
No. I'm trying to send you the announcement.
I know you're not a liar. I'm just putting it out there because they're not here to defend themselves.
I'm sure. Here it is. Just a second. Okay, just a second. Sorry.
It's live radio, this.
It's actually on my Facebook. It is on my Facebook. I'm trying. This was me playing by.
If you were giving me a false impression, it would be the first time that you've ever done that. So I'll take it for a fact.
No. I'm going to send you. I'm going to send you their announcement.
So they invited people to come down to the Vortex to hold a vigil for the people in New Zealand.
What they basically did, they called for people to come to the vigil and then to go together at 7:30 to this morning in the mosque.
Wow!
They tried to unite these two events into one event, and guess what?
What happened?
No one came. Quite a considerable proportion of my audience are actually Arab and Muslims, actually locals to the Vortex, who come to my gigs because I rally for Palestine. My music is at large inspired by Arabic music, by Makam, by Oriental music. No one came to their picket.
Now here's something very positive that I'm hearing. When this all kicked off last Friday, on the Facebook and Twitter accounts of Momentum and Jewdas, there was widespread disgust expressed by members of those organisations. Aren't we entering really positive territory? Maybe people like me, maybe not you. I can't speak for you, Gilad, but maybe I've been a bit guilty of being a bit doom and gloom and a bit depressed. Maybe there's something wonderful going on. People are actually thinking for themselves. I'm a member of Momentum, and they say to me, "Go and protest the antisemite." He's not an antisemite. He's a jazz musician. No, I won't join in the protest. That's hugely positive, right?
This is exactly what I'm saying. So I think that through my experience, we can see that Momentum is a compromised, totally Zionized group. Now, as you probably remember, A few days ago, I sent you the letter. I have it within my disposal. I just have to put it on the net.
Yeah.
The letter that was initially sent to the council, and you can see Diane Abbott there and the councillors and so on and so on. This letter is not presented as a lefty letter, Jewdas, Momentum. It is actually a Zionist call to protest, and the argument is that in between my tunes, which is not true actually, I slug off Israel. I hardly talk about politics, and if I talk about politics, it's kind of within the context of entertainment. I would crack a joke, a stand-up thing, and it's not too offensive to anyone. And usually it's a self-mockery. Anyway, when this Jewish group or Jewish persona saw that there was no answer, they didn't get any reaction from the councillors or the council or the mayor or whatever, they then morphed into a left picket. Then it was Jewdas who started to protest, and this is this momentum. And this is exactly what I'm arguing in The Wandering Who. When it comes to Jewish identity politics, left, right, Zionism, anti is just a facade. It is not serious. They morph from Zionism to anti, from left to right, from Bolshevism to capitalism. And this is exactly what we saw. Eventually, they had something between 15 to 20 people in the. It's hard to say because they were mixed with people in the square, but there were very few. And pretty
so it's
much
pathetic
half of them, check it out, were ultra-Zionists.
It's pathetic, right? And it's very interesting you talking about how Jews morph, or some Jews morph from left to right to ultra-Zionist to maybe anti-Zionism. Maybe people who identify as Jews, well, in fact, not maybe, they're the same as everybody else. We go with the prevailing wind sometimes. Wherever the wind is blowing, we go with it. I hear you loud and clear on that. Now, with respect to what's been going on with these groups like Jewdas and Momentum and their struggle to get any real purchase, they can't get the numbers. In that instance, then, why has Jeremy Corbyn, Mr. Backbencher for 3-4 decades, speaking for Gaza, speaking for Palestine, why, knowing that they are a bunch of muppets, number one, and number two, they are very small in number, why hasn't Jeremy Corbyn blown the lid off of this and done it quickly and done it mercilessly and moved on? Why has he fallen under the wheels of the truck?
Because Jeremy Corbyn, again, and by the way, I'm going to expose him further this week, not only that he's not a leader, and I don't think that he's a bad guy, but he's totally compromised. If he cannot even handle Gilad Atzmon, because the people who attacked me are his number one buddies. Now, why do they attack Gilad Atzmon? They attack Gilad Atzmon because they try to vindicate their miserable leader. They say, you see, Jeremy Corbyn is not an antisemite. We are Jeremy Corbyn buddies, and we are giving you Gilad Atzmon on a plate. All right? Now, I will tell you something devastating now. I have two interesting news for you. A, I'm looking at my Facebook, and I can see that Momentum, like Owen Jones, removed the call to make the protest joined with the morning.
With the New Zealand morning. But of course, you've got screen grabs of all this anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can see the discussion. You can see the discussion on my. You can see the discussion. Blah 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 blah. Following the tragedy, here there is another one. To attend an event, solidarity, the victims. Yeah. You can see it. We have some screenshots on my Facebook. Yes,
interesting that they deleted. That's a very cowardly thing to do. It's
not cowardly. They were beaten. They actually left the place half an hour before my audience arrived.
But you have to own that, though. You've got to own that when you do something in the manner in which they did it, you've got to take ownership of it. Deleting it after the fact is cowardly. You know, it means that you're not really you don't really have the moral fibre to stand over what you did. You're trying to erase it. That's cowardly, in my opinion. That is.
But it's cowardly. But this is exactly this is the typical symptomatic behavior that we try to expose. Now there are a few more things that I have to tell you. It is very clear that at a certain stage, the council got involved. The mayor called the club. The mayor, not the mayor of London, the mayor of Hackney, a Labour character. And he actually wrote to the club, and I think that there was a discussion. Obviously, I wasn't there, so I'm telling you what I heard, what I was told. The mayor basically asked them to cancel the gig. They said, "No way, we are not going to cancel the gig." And there was a discussion with another councillor, and she said a Labour councillor, of course, and she said something that I think everyone should know about. They basically say, no, it's not just Gilad Atzmon. And I'm not quoting now because you know, it is kind of...
You're paraphrasing. You're paraphrasing.
I'm kind of... This is how it was delivered to me. She said something like, we basically have a list of artists. A list of artists, and artists should understand that they cannot talk freely anymore as they used to. This is what we get out of Corbyn at the helm for 3 years. The complete denial of elementary freedoms. This is exactly what George Orwell warned us about. George Orwell, you know, when we were in school, they used to tell George Orwell kind of is writing about a Russia-like
that's right,
setting. No, George Orwell wrote about the British Labour. George Orwell wrote about Britain, about London, under an authoritarian, so-called socialist regime. He was mortified by these people.
Which isn't socialist. Hang on. By the way, Gilad Atzmon is our guest. Go to gilad.co.uk. The whole point about this is they are not socialist. If they're socialist, Hannibal Lecter is a vegetarian. They're not socialist. They're left social democrats. They're fascists. They're fascists by another name. And I want to make this point while you're on.
Not by another name. They are clearly
fascist.
Authoritarian. They are clearly authoritarian. And on top of being authoritarians, they are uniquely ungifted. If a jazz club, together with me, can knock down the Labour Party, this party cannot sit in government. They definitely cannot handle Putin.
They're woeful, right? They're absolutely woeful. Now, I should be arguing with you, and I generally do, don't I? But I can't. I can't keep up the farce. I can't argue with you. It's too important. Here's something. Most of my listeners would loathe the Conservative Party. And they would think they would have very good reason. Now, here's the thing. Here's my next question for you. You, as far as I understand, haven't had to deal with any of this stuff from the so-called right. They're not demanding you be silenced and shut down regardless of what they think about you. Now, I have to do this, even though I suppose my politics, if I do have any politics, would be socialist. But the right are not doing this type of thing. Am I right in saying that?
To start with, let me assure you that I don't have any issue with socialism. More than that, I was the first outlet in this country to support Corbyn.
Yeah, you were a big supporter early on. Yeah.
Sorry.
You were, to be fair, you were an endorser early on of Corbyn. I know that.
Yeah. The earliest. Now, and I was also the first to admit, you know, quite early that there are some very, very suspicious moves on this on his part, and by now, I don't see him as a bad person. I think that he's uniquely ungifted. He's certainly not a leader. He can be a nice guy. I'm sure that he's a nice guy. I know quite a few people who know him personally. I think that he's a nice guy. But the damage that this caricature inflict on left, on socialism, on equality, on a prospect of better future, considering the horrible government that we have in place now, is huge. We are practically living in a country with no opposition party. And this opposition party is doing nothing except internal Jewish wars between the JLM and the JVL and the Chris Williamson. And let me give you another story about Corbyn, and I should write about it.
Before you do that, let me ask you this. Before you do that, we haven't spoken since Chris Williamson appeared to lend you some support. And then he tucked his tail between his legs and he ran at the first sign of trouble when he was criticised for supporting you. He apologised. This is a Labour MP, Chris Williamson. That's just rubbish.
What happened to him 2 weeks later? He was kicked out anyway.
It's rubbish, isn't it? It's rubbish.
They're really unique bunch of spineless people, and the British people should really be clever to gather that they do need an opposition party, but this party is not the Labour, and definitely not the Labour in its current form. And I tell you why. Because I still believe that Jeremy Corbyn is the best thing in the Labour. If Jeremy Corbyn is so miserable, spineless and weak, what is left out of this party? You know, all those social justice warriors that are trying to divide us. Do you understand what they really try to do, these idiots in Momentums?
Yeah, do you know what they're doing on a daily basis? What they're doing, in my opinion, on a daily basis is they are inventing. I mean, they're very, if they are clever at one thing, if there is one thing that they are remarkably good at, it is inventing new vulnerable groups on a daily basis. Groups that cannot be criticised or spoken about because it's hate speech. That's all they seem to do, right?
Of course, and here we are coming, and this is exactly why I am attacked. Because I produce a pretty serious body of work that explains why left and identitarian left is actually Hitlerian by nature, and why it jeopardizes the attempt to bring back equality. I argue, and it's very simple, I argue that in the old days, the left used to tell us that we are all together. It doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, gay, trans, Jew, we were all together. And it was quite appealing for many people, and especially for minority groups. You come to a country and you're an immigrant and suddenly you're part of the Labour Party. It's beautiful.
Workers unite, the proletariat, we're all together, yeah.
This was class politics.
Yeah.
Now, what happened at a certain stage, and this is something to do with the Frankfurt School, and some people called it cultural Marxist and so on and so on. We saw a revolution in the left. Rather than uniting us, they started to divide us by means of biology. We started to talk as a woman, as a Jew, as a black. And the issue here, and without understanding it, because they are uniquely stupid, as I already mentioned, they started to divide us by means of biology.
Yeah.
You identify with as a woman, it's a biology. As a black, it's your skin color, it's biology. As a gay, most people think that it's biology, most experts. And by doing that, they are actually adopted the most embarrassing, problematic aspect of Hitlerian racism. Because what is the whole idea of Hitlerian racism is that you identify with your biology. Biology as an Aryan, apparently, according to Hitler, is better than the biology of the Jew.
Superior, that's right. But there's a contradiction inherent there. Let me contradict you. I'm glad I found something to criticize you on. Hang on a second now.
Yeah.
It's gone 180 degrees because these identity groups, by the way, folks, Gilad wrote a book about this called Being in Time. Go to gilad.co.uk, order the book, get it at amazon.co.uk because it is the definitive work on the subject of identity politics. I've read it twice, I really have. It's in the studio here just to my left. If anybody wants to know about it, I'll tell you all about it. Get this book and read it. Now, I'll tell you where there's a flaw in your argument, and you're going to think maybe I'm being a bit immature here. They're not talking in terms of superiority. These identity groups are racing to the bottom to prove that they're the biggest victim. That they're the biggest victim of the establishment. It's gone beyond, like, you were right to talk about Aryan superiority. These victim groups, and they're like Mogwai from the film Gremlins. If you throw water onto a victim group or an identity group, it splits into another bloody identity group. But
this is what you're saying. What you're saying
to become victims, right?
Is totally correct. However, they definitely sustain the biological exclusivity.
Right.
Yeah. So, for instance, I'll give you a very embarrassing example. The Jewish labor movement, yeah? The Jewish labor,
yes.
Jewish Voice for Labor, sorry, JVL.
Supports Jeremy.
That support Jeremy. On their website, they say that if you are a labor member, a party member, you can support them, but you can never become a member because in order to become a member, you have to be a Jew. The meaning of it is that neither Jeremy Corbyn or Chris Williamson or Ken Livingstone or George Galloway, I don't think that he wants, could join this group because they are not racially qualified. So you can argue that it is not supremacist. They are not arguing to be better, but they are definitely excluding people from joining their
well,
game.
You've done me there. Actually, I owe you one there. You're right. In that instance, you're absolutely right. I would have said that Galloway.
And the question that I ask, and by the way, this is why they try to wipe me out. How is it possible that Mr. Jeremy Corbyn and Mr. Chris Williamson are happy to be endorsed and to be associated with a group that is racially oriented or racially exclusive? Would they also be happy to be friends with a group that calls itself the white
Voice for Labour,
the Labour Voice, or Aryan for Corbyn? I don't think so.
Here's a question that you tackle in your books, in The Wandering Who and in Being in Time. You see, I don't believe that Jews are a race. I never have done. I never will, no more than Muslims, no more than Christians. So Galloway could say, well, I'm going to convert to Judaism. But that wouldn't be good enough for the Jewish Voice for Labour because they hold on to what I believe is a myth. The myth that Jews are a race. But I don't believe they are a race. We're never going to get to the bottom of this, are we?
It's very important what you are saying here. I, like you and like many others, not everybody, I can mention a few scholars, including Jewish scholars, who actually insist that Jews are a race. But I, like you, don't think that Jews are a race. I don't think that there is a racial continuum between, Ashkenazi Jew from Russia and a Yemenite Jew or Iraqi Jew and so on and so on. But there is one thing that we must agree. The Jewish identity politics is racist to the bone.
Absolutely racist, yeah.
This is the issue.
Yeah.
I don't care. People can see themselves as a part of a race, and it's not necessarily offensive.
Hang on a second. Let me just jump in there. Because I want to be absolutely clear about where I am. Yeah. Yes, it is Jewish identity racist, but within that, under that umbrella, are, in my opinion, I'm not trying to virtue signal here. I really believe this. Are millions of Jews who do not believe that they are the chosen ones, who do not believe that they are racially superior. We know these people, right?
I'm with you there. I'm with you there, and this is why one of the reasons that I'm subject to this endless vile campaigns is that I made a clear distinction in the Wandering Who between, the first question that I ask, instead of asking what Jews are, I ask what is it the Jews identify with? And then I made a very clear distinction or distinctions between Judaism, the religion, Jews, the people, and Jewishness, the ideology. I don't attack the Jews. It's a vague category. I don't attack Judaism, the religion. I only criticize the ideology, Jewishness. I think that it is a very unique ideology. And at certain phases of history, it proved to be very dangerous for Jews themselves. And you ask me to define what is this Jewish ideology, and I would argue that it is not one thing. It is many world views and ideas that facilitate a sense of exceptionalism. So Judaism is, in that sense, from an ideological point of view, could facilitate sense of exceptionalism. Why? Because we are the chosen people. By the way, if you talk to rabbis, they will contradict it. They will tell you to be chosen, it's actually a burden rather than a gift. Okay?
Yeah.
They can be pro-Palestinians because they say, oh, look at us, we are so special, we are Jews and we support Palestine. And then they can be Zionists and say, look what the Nazis did to us, and now we managed to take Palestine, and we are even taking the American Congress. Look what how successful Bibi Netanyahu was there. So it can lead to many, evolve into many ideas, different politics that even contradicts each other, but the common element is exceptionalism, or in Jewish term, chosenness.
We're back to square one now. On this theme, on this subject, we're back to square one. We have groups like Momentum and Jewdas and the campaign against anti-Semitism, which masquerades as a charity, shouldn't have charity status because it is a political organisation. It's not a charity. In my opinion. Now, you have these organisations. We're back to square one. You've defined there and summed up in an excellent way, in a brilliant, coherent way, what it is that you feel and you think. And this is why I believe that the mainstream media hasn't picked up on your story in terms of, I've, of course, come from commercial radio, television. I've been around the media at all levels, and I know that there was a time when producers would be killing themselves to get to Gilad Atzmon, to get him on a sofa to speak in a debate with one of these groups, whether it be Momentum or Jewdas. This is what should happen. It's what used to happen. But your phone is not ringing with television channels in London or in Manchester saying, Gilad, we've got momentum, let's get you in the studio, let's thrash this out once and for all. And I believe the reason for that is because that would then quickly blow out of the water any notion that you were an antisemite, which is a misnomer anyway, or that you were a self-hating Jew, or that you hate Jews. This is the problem, you see. They won't debate these people.
Let's go back to square one, and you really find out that as much as, by the way, the national media is very careful. It doesn't really attack me. If you look at the Jewish Chronicle, they don't even remember that my name is Gilad Atzmon. They call me the notorious antisemite Gilad Atzmon. And I thought not to call them. My name is not notorious. It's Gilad.
You're going into R&B, bit of R&B on your next album, yeah. The notorious anti-Semite Gilad Atzmon, R&B classics. It's ridiculous, right? It's madness, this. I can't believe we're still talking about this. I don't mean today, I mean in general. In general, why are we talking about people being harassed and pickets and people being demanded, hostages being held in the Labour Party, Corbyn absolutely helpless? How can this happen in 2019? I thought as the decades went on that we're supposed to evolve and advance. Our thinking is going to be, advanced and evolved. We're back in the 1930s here.
I think that we are back in the 1930s. I just read recently, somebody gave me an incredible book from 1938, an English book. It's quite a small booklet, Marxist, and it's about anti-Semitism. And I'm talking 1938, so it's kind of just a minute before the storm. And the first thing that this guy says is that we know that there is anti-Semitism because Jews are identified. This is quite a shocking observation, because he said, like 10 years ago, this is something that he said in 1938, he said 10 years ago, there would be a criminal or or a mafioso or a banker doing something wrong, and nobody would mention that they were Jews.
Yeah.
And he said, look, now 1938, every time something happened, everybody knows immediately that this guy or this woman or this criminal is a Jew. And I thought about it with all those idiotic, dangerous campaigns against anti-Semitism, and they started it really in France, chasing Dieudonné and Alain Sorel. And look what is happening now in France. Yesterday I read some articles from Israel. Anti-Semitism is really big now, and it's out of control, and they don't know how to restrain it. Then they didn't do very well. What they did instead of learning from their mistakes, campaign against anti-Semitism started exactly the same operation here. And what is the results? People start to identify Jewish elements at the center of quite a lot of mess. Why Momentum was so miserable last weekend? Because a lot of people identify, and I cannot say whether this is the case or how involved he was, because a lot of people now identify Momentum with John Lanzmann.
Yes,
and John Lanzmann is a member of the tribe, and John Lanzmann made a video 2 weeks ago that was stupidly endorsed by Corbyn, where it tells us actually that we shouldn't talk about the Rothschild.
I saw it. It's laughable.
For me, the Rothschild is not. I'm not very interested in this.
I know you don't get into it. Yeah, look, I contacted the people who made that, and again invited them to debate.
But more concerning, we shouldn't talk about Soros. And I thought, well done, Mr. Corbyn. Now you're telling us that we shouldn't talk about certain bankers because they are Jews. Surely you are adopting a racist, discriminatory philosophy.
It's a trope. You could call it a trope, all day long. It's
right. Yeah. So we can talk. So then we can be critical of all bankers except those who are Jews. And this is in the name of class politics? No way. All right. So the outcome. These campaigns against anti-Semitism are very, very dangerous. Now there is another very. Oh man, then his name just.
We've got about 90 seconds now. I'm going to give you the final word. We've covered an awful lot today. I've got to get ready for my next guest. We've got about 90 seconds. I'm going to let you sum it up. It's Gilad Atzmon, folks. Gilad.co.uk. Unsuccessful attempts to have Gilad's gigs stopped, concerts, performances at venues around London of late by groups associated with Momentum and with Jewdas. Fascinating discussion. And Jeremy Corbyn, of course, and John McDonnell and others were doing nothing about it. I'm going to give you the final word on it. You'll be back again soon anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
So you're optimistic then, in the final word, you're optimistic at what's happened, how it's exposed it. It's given you more oxygen than you could ever have hoped for before that. You've always had a big following anyway, but it's drawing more attention to the wrong, to the injustice of people like you being harassed. It's positive, I think. Final word, Gilad.
I think that I'll repeat myself. I think that the Labour has given us a terrifying opportunity to witness how dangerous and authoritarian it is, how compromised it is. I think that it is time for British people to acknowledge that they don't have an opposition party, and we have to start to think of new ways to bring hope and a prospect of better future. I can only tell you that if you decide to put me in 10 Downing Street, I will give you Wonderful World, a la Louis Armstrong in B flat.
Yeah, the last time somebody got the top job that played the saxophone very well, it didn't work out very well for the world, did it? I'm thinking of Bill. I'm thinking of Bill Clinton.
You practices. You're right.
But you're a real saxophonist, mate. You know I love you. And next time you're in Manchester, please let me know a few days beforehand so we can come and watch your genius. You're a genius musician. You are. Being in Time, Gilad Atzmon. Get it, folks. Identity politics. It's central. Understanding that is central to understanding geopolitics at the moment. Gilad.co.uk. Follow Gilad on Twitter. There's only one Gilad Atzmon. Thanks, mate. Love you. Thanks for coming on.
We love you, man. Bye-bye.
Speak soon, Gilad. Brilliant, Gilad Atzmon. News on Gilad's website as to where you can watch him live as well. That's Gilad, GILAD.co.uk. Top man, Gilad Atzmon. Right, we're going to take the headlines really quickly. The news headlines from FSN in London. When we come back from that, might have time for a tune, probably won't have. Cassie Crowhurst is going to join the programme live from her home. This is your Richie Allen Show, live on Fab Radio 2 here in Manchester, triggerwarning.tv, my website, TuneIn Radio, and many other places as well, places that I'm not even aware of. Headlines from Ollie, I think, in London.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. The president of Kazakhstan says he's resigning, having been in power since 1990. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says she will never say the name of the Christchurch gunman. Germany started auctioning off frequencies for the 5G mobile network it plans to build in the coming years. And the police chief in Paris has been sacked as the government moves to take a tougher line there on recent violent protests.
They're battering the bejesus out of Yellow Vest protesters, and they're talking about taking a tougher line. What are they going to do? They're going to hang them from lampposts on the Champs-Élysées. It's crazy there in Paris, isn't it? Right, we're coming up for 8 minutes past the hour. We're going to take a detour now. We're going to take a different direction when I speak with Cassie Crowhurst. I'll be following Cassie of late. She is a vlogger. She's a citizen journalist who uploads live streams to Facebook where she has a very healthy audience. She speaks about all manner of subjects, spirituality, health, the sort of health that we don't hear about and health topics we don't hear about on mainstream media. But she talks about politics and news as well. She'll join me in a couple of minutes' time. Alrighty, I suppose you better crack on then.
The Richie Allen Show relies on your support. Go to richieallen.co.uk and set up a monthly donation today.
Now, I know as well that I've not really been reading the tweets. I've been reading the tweets, but there's so much to get through tonight. I've not been reading them out, so I apologise for that, right? It's Richie Allen Show on Twitter, at Richie Allen Show, to see what other people are tweeting me. Packed old programme on Tuesday, your Richie Allen Show, nothing like it. Back in a couple of minutes with Cassie Crowhurst. Music from The Cure on the Richie Allen Show, coming up for 12 minutes past 6. It is Tuesday, the 19th of March, 2019. Packed old week of programmes for you. Got a fascinating interview on Thursday with an author who's been writing about aliens. I know it sounds very trite that it isn't. Academic based in Montana in the United States has been writing about UFOs. but he's an academic and he's been talking about UFOs and aliens being some sort of future version of ourselves. I can't wait to get into this on Thursday. Right, let's have a chat about this. A number of you got in touch with me a couple of weeks ago to express your concern at an event that will be held at Waterworld in Stoke-on-Trent. A lot of people getting in touch with me about that, and I have to say that it definitely got my interest, and I thought, yeah, it's a little bit concerning. It's about British naturists who will be holding swimming lessons or a swimming event at Waterworld in Stoke-on-Trent between 8 and 10 o'clock, I think, on the 13th of April. But some parents, when they saw the advertisements online, were a bit worried because they found that it isn't an adult-only event, that children will be there as well, presumably the children of naturists. And parents were saying, well, what about the protection issues around that? Will children be protected? And how does anybody know that those who might do harm to children wouldn't attend? Maybe paedophiles will attend. This has made the news, as I said, a couple of weeks back, and I wanted to get into this. Let's welcome to the programme a lady who, as I said earlier on, is a vlogger, a citizen journalist who regularly live streams on Facebook, where she's got a very healthy audience indeed. And she talks about lots of issues, matters around health, alternative health, real health issues, spirituality, and she talks about current affairs as well and the news. Glad to make her acquaintance. Let's welcome to the programme Cassie Crowhurst. Cassie, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello, Richie.
Thanks for coming on. You're busy there with a family and young children, and you've given us a bit of time, so I'm really happy that you've come on. Now, when these things are talked about, they're often polarised, and you get two groups of people shouting and bawling and, no, we're not paedophiles, and the message kind of gets lost. I think in this story, which is a serious story, the real message, I think, has gotten lost because people are saying, well, we're being accused of being paedophiles, and they weren't being accused of it, and parents with genuine concerns were being accused of being, hysterical, when I don't think they were being hysterical at all. Tell us what's going on here. Tell us about this event and how it got your interest.
It originally caught my interest when I saw the article for this. The way it's been advertised in the media online, I haven't seen it in any newspapers, was kind of advertising this naked child event, family of all ages. And then I came across an article that was to do with a former director. And this former director was convicted of having downloaded over 120,000 images of child abuse.
120,000.
120,000. And then when I started to look a bit more deeply into it, then there was another former leader for British naturism who was also a social worker. Again, 29 convictions of child abuse. And then when you look a bit more deeply into it, there was a convicted paedophile that was granted by a judge to still continue his membership to attend British naturism events. So I'm sitting back thinking there's something deeply concerning about this. That where's the safeguarding that you're allowing naked children at these events, yet we've got evidence of convicted paedophiles and two former, like one principal and another leader, that have been convicted paedophiles for having these disturbing images of children.
It's a fair question. You're saying that children will be in public at a swimming pool, and it doesn't appear that there would be any vetting process, not only of those who are members of naturist groups, but also those who are maybe not, who might just attend. That's your main concern.
Yeah, because it's not just this thing. Okay, if it was private, there should be stringent checks in place, but it's not. It's actually open to the public. Now, the British naturism isn't just. I think what's caught the media's people's attention, like myself, is obviously we've now got social media. British naturism, I think they're in their 50 years, and these events have been going on, I think, for about 27 years. No one's dot connected. They're just thinking, oh, that's what these people are into. Okay, that's fine, each and every one to their own. But it's only until you start looking at, well, actually, there's children involved in these events. And when you look at, it's not just swimming, you've got festivals, there's week-long festivals that are taking place in this country, and you can easily buy a day ticket, £7.50 the one is Nude Fest, £7.50 a day ticket. There's no checks. The only checks that when you're filling in their form is the onus is on you, the member of the public, to notify British Naturism that you are on the sex register. And even if you're not convicted, even if, for example, the leader that I was looking at it today, right? Not the director, the former leader was the social worker. In 2006, I see an article about a beach, and he was quoted on there. In 2012, 6 years later, that's when he was caught and convicted.
Was he booted out, Cassie? When he was convicted, was he booted out by the naturists? He was, of course, yeah.
So he's been within that company from, I don't know how long, but from the article in 2006 to when it's been the article for 2012 that he was convicted, he's been working in British naturism for 6 years. And like I say, there is no, even as a member, if you want to be a member of British naturism, all it is a tick box. If you are convicted, then, and you're honest, you're going to tick the box to say you're on the sex offenders register. But not all paedophiles are convicted.
Yeah, I'm surprised now, and you've done a bit of research into this, and I am genuinely surprised as somebody who's worked with young children in the past. Anybody who's going to work today, whether it's if you're going to be a girls' netball coach or whether you're going to coach soccer, you're going to have that investigation done. You're going to have to get that police report. Now, on that, I want to read, before we go on, loads of time, by the way, Cassie Crowhurst is our guest this hour. There's only one Cassie Crowhurst on Facebook. Find her and connect with her there. You can watch her videos there. Roger runs a Facebook page for this program. I'm not on Facebook. And thankfully, his eyes were open today. He found a message on Facebook, and it's very nice. And it's meant for you, Cassie, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's from Sarah Beck. And Sarah says, I understand you're doing a talk show tomorrow with Cassie about naturists. She goes on to say, Cassie, now don't interrupt, because I guess what Sarah is going to say is not true. She's misreading you, but don't say anything until I'm finished, and you can jump in. She says, Cassie is under the impression that naturists are normalising paedophilia, which is totally untrue and unfounded, right? The British Naturist Society was set up in 1964, runs successful events all over the country, in fact all over the world. It was the Naturist 10th year at Blackpool, where they got harassed and verbally abused by the vigilante paedophile hunters who were protesting outside the venue. Their behaviour was disgusting, and they shoved camera phones in the faces of the Naturists and called them paedophiles and live streamed it. Now, of course, that's got nothing to do with Cassie. Cassie never did anything like that. All they achieved was to upset the children who were there at the time. There's been a lot of scaremongering, says Sarah. Then she goes on to say, there are lots of benefits to being brought up as a naturist. My best friend is a second-generation naturist. She was never forced to be naked, and she never forced her own children to be either. And that's about the gist of Sarah's comments. So what do you say to that? She says, a bit of scaremongering going on. We've been around for years and years. We're certainly not paedophiles, and there's a lot of benefits to it. They explain why they do it, nature, non-conformity. What do you think?
My response to that, and I've always said, if you look at my videos as soon as I've started reporting on this is not an attack on naturists. Adults, if that's what they're into, there's many different fetishes that people are into. If that's what they want to do and express themselves, then go ahead, crack on. It's not a reflection on adults choosing to be in naturism. This concern that we have is that paedophiles are infiltrating British naturism, and British naturism on their safeguarding document have even stated that they are completely aware of this. And I just want to read you their statement. So this is British naturism's safeguarding policy. The unique nature of the organisation makes British naturism especially vulnerable to the infiltration by people with a sexual interest in children, and British naturism realises that potential abusers may deliberately target children through its events and activities. This is what we are concentrating on. This is not an attack on naturists. Like I say, this is not an attack on that organisation, and there have been studies that say it can be really healthy. The issue that we've got, and if you are aware of what's taking place, there's an article that was recently published in the Metro within the last couple of weeks. Every 23 minutes, someone is caught downloading child pornography. We have a sickness. Paedophilia is a fetish. It is a sickness, and our concern is that having naked children at these events is giving these paedophiles the opportunity to infiltrate this organisation.
Now, in that, can I just jump in there? In that, I think you're right. I think at that swimming event, I think that's a concern. Now, British naturism are not here today, which is a pity, but that's okay. We'll get them on another day. In fairness to them, thanks for sending me that document today, so I didn't have to search for it. Thanks for sending it on to me. They have said explicitly, this is May 2018, that they safely or will safely recruit staff, volunteers and persons in positions of responsibility for children by ensuring all necessary checks are made, referred to volunteer policy. So it would appear, Cassie, that while I think you've got an excellent point about these venues and them being open to the public, I think you're on the ball there. They're saying that within events that are maybe not open to the public, within events where they're bringing people in to look after the children, they are doing their due diligence to make sure those people have been cleared to work with children.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I've gone through that policy rigorously. I've gone through each and every paragraph, and the policy is more geared towards staff, volunteers. When you look at it from the aspect of members, the only thing that's highlighted is photography. There's nothing about vetting members. The only way they're vetting members is when a person wants to become a member, they have to tick the box to say, are they on the sex offenders register? Now, like I say, they can lie, and it's down to British naturism to do their due diligence and checks to check that this person is actually telling the truth.
Yeah, but they're saying they are. They're explicitly saying that when staff and volunteers and responsible persons are recruited, they are checked. They're saying they definitely are checked. They're adamant about that they're not bringing people in to keep an eye as a supervisor on children or to work with children who haven't been vetted. They're very explicit about that.
Yeah, on the staff. What about members? What about members of the public?
Yeah, I mean,
going to these, and for example, I've done it. I've done a test. I went to book a ticket for the Naked Festival that's taking place in Doncaster, I believe it is, and to buy a day ticket. And the only thing in there is you're ticking to agree to their terms and conditions. Now, when you look at the terms and conditions, like anything, when you bring it up, it's got a list of things. The only item is on there is that if you are on the sex offenders register, or if you've got a criminal record, the onus is on you as the member to notify them of that. Now, what the point is that I'm trying to highlight
you don't think that's strong enough. You don't think
I don't think that's strong enough. I really don't think that's strong enough. Not when they themselves have identified that they are going to be infiltrated by people with a sexual interest of children. If that's the case, they need to be more rigorous. They need to check these people. They need to check that they're not. Like they haven't got a criminal record, and like I say, this isn't an attack on nature. Not all, like I've heard it where people are saying, "Well, I've been doing this for years and it's fine," but these people are not looking at children in a sexual way. There's a lot of naturists that if they find it healthy and it's not in their mindset. But we've got a lot of not very well people.
You'd like to think the majority, wouldn't you? You'd like to think, and I wouldn't imagine that naturists are I don't know, poisoned by having more paedophiles than anybody else, than a football club, or I wouldn't imagine that at all. I imagine it evens itself out across society. But you made a good point there. I've got to endorse what you said about the members. It appears that they're relying on the honesty of a member to talk about anything, rather than maybe doubling down on finding that out. Whereas with staff and with anybody working with children, they're doing their due diligence. I don't like the idea of an open event like that, where I just don't.
I think it's disturbing. I really do think I think it's really disturbing, and not. I know as a child, and I've shared personal things in my vlogs, where it's, I'm quite large busted. I'm blonde, I'm curvy, I'm large busted. And ever since I was a child, 13, I started getting, just men perving on me. And it's not been a nice thing to grow up being really self-conscious. And I'm dressed, I'm not at a naturist event, I'm fully clothed, but I'm very well aware of my figure and what I look like, and the attention that I had drawn to me. Even at 15, at the age of 15, and my friend was 14, I was groomed by a lifeguard. And I'm very well aware what goes on in the world, and I see it online, and I see, you only have to look at the statistics that are coming out. We have a issue with paedophilia, and I don't want to talk about it. It's not a nice subject to be talking about, and I really don't want to be thinking that we actually live in a world where we have this problem. I'm a mother myself. I've got 2 very young kids. I don't want to be thinking like that, but I have to protect my children, because I know what society's like.
It's a minefield. It's a minefield. Now, I told you today we don't have children, please God, in the future, but it must be a minefield for parents. I know you've got a 6-year-old, and must be a bundle of joy and horrors that time dealing with 6-year-olds. But you let him out to school in the morning, or he goes off to practice cricket or football or whatever, and these are the things you have to think about. It's rotten, really, to be thinking about stuff like that. It's a terrible thing, I imagine.
Well, I said to you earlier, because I'm aware of what's going on now. He was in the shower and he was talking to me, and he was just having this conversation. Oh, mummy, girls have boobies, and I have these, and I'm straight away going, where have you heard that from? Who's teaching you that? And it turns out it was a friend. And then I'm having to educate him about it's his body, his private parts, and no one else can see them, because you just don't know. You really don't know. Even, for example, the paedophiles, that anywhere that children are, they're going to infiltrate. So this is where, like you said, the lady, it's having a negative connotation of naturism. That's not the case. It's like saying all teachers are paedophiles, all doctors are paedophiles. We're not saying that. These people, they will infiltrate. Where there's an opportunity to prey on children, they're going to get in. Do
you know what we'll do, Cassie? I mean, I'm obviously going to get some comment from the British Naturist Society. I think you've lucidly and fairly asked a couple of very serious questions. I'd be inclined to ask somebody representing the organisation about membership and about vetting. I know there might be issues around privacy. I know they're going to argue about it, but if members can fraternise with children who come from naturist families, and those children might be naked, I think you've got some responsibility to find out a little bit more about the member, rather than accepting a tick in a box. I would definitely put that to them.
I tried phoning today, Richie. This afternoon I phoned up, and it's documented. If people want to see my videos, I've been doing it in the public domain. So if I'm making a call, I'm then doing it on live so people can see the responses. And I managed to get the General Secretary. I phoned back. I was told I could speak to her after a lunch break. When I phoned back, I could tell the guy's tone of voice was changed when I said my name was Cassie.
Right,
and he came back. She's in a meeting, you have to email her. I said, well, can I not speak to her? No, you have to email her. And I said, well, I just spoke to you earlier. You said I could phone back and speak to her. He put the phone down on me.
Yeah, well, they're obviously aware of you now. I know you've done national radio on this particular subject, but I'm sure I will get some comment from them, and we'll put that to them. It's an important issue. Safeguarding it's not hysterical. It's serious. Safeguarding is a very serious thing. I've been asked a couple of times here. I can't do it because I don't have the time. I'd love to do it, to help out with a couple of different teams, because of my experience, I was never much good, to be honest, but I wasn't a half bad coach, and I love kids. I get on with them, but I don't have the time for it. But I know that, if I do find the time for it, there'll be a proper and completely correct, thorough background check of me and what I've done in the past and criminal record and all that. And it's important, and it absolutely is. I want to ask you, while I have you on, Cassie Crowhurst is on the line. Get onto Facebook if you use Facebook and watch her videos there. Got a really healthy following and audience there, talking about all sorts of topics: health, spirituality, the nature of reality, who we are, news, politics, different take on these things. Check it out. Broaden your minds, listen to other voices. Check out Cassie Crowhurst if you haven't done before. Now, you're a mum. This is a big issue, and I'd be very interested in hearing what you and your husband think about this. Obviously, the Department of Education has published guidelines in recent weeks about making changes to how sex education is taught in schools. And unsurprisingly, this particular programme, and I'm sure many programmes, have been contacted by parents of children in primary school who are pretty sickened, pretty horrified, pretty angry that they're being told they can't opt out, and that the children are going to be asked to think about and to talk about all sorts of grown-up things like sexual identity and stuff like that. Parents are absolutely outraged. No better woman than you, because you have a 6-year-old going through school at the moment. What have you made of all of this?
I do not agree with it. I saw an article about it not that long ago, and I actually phoned my school and I said, could you tell me, when are you bringing this in? Are you teaching my child this? Are you teaching this? And they weren't aware of it, and it's probably not made its way into the county that I'm in. But I don't agree with it. I really don't. I think it's down to the parents. My 6-year-old, he's into Lego, and he's so innocent, and he's like my full of love little boy. He's so innocent. He's telling me, oh, mummy, the girls have the boobies, and why do boys have willies?
Yeah.
Like, he's at that age. Why am I going to start diluting his mindset about things that he does not need to know about at that such a young age? I think it's ludicrous.
How old were you when it was brought up in school? I guess, like me, you were probably 13, 14 when biology, when they talk about the birds and the bees, right? And
I think we had one lesson. About ovulating, and nothing about wool.
And giggled all the way through it, I suppose.
Yeah.
I was 14 when our biology teacher said, right, we're going to talk about reproduction. And that's when we got into it. But before that, it was never mentioned in school. We were just allowed to be children, and we did children's things. But it would have been unthinkable for teachers to talk about same-sex relationships, straight relationships, gender identity. It would have been unthinkable. What do you think is going on? Why do you think they want to get this into the children's dialogue? Why do they want children thinking about this so young? I have my suspicions. What do you think?
Well, I just think there's an agenda playing out. I really think there's an agenda playing out, because where has this all of a sudden come from? This sort of stuff weren't about it when I was younger.
No.
Yes, you've got people that are gay, they're gay, lesbian. You've always had that. You've had some people that they don't identify. They don't identify with the physical form that they're in, and that they have that mental issue. It's a mental issue. But now we've got how many genders? We've got, even on Facebook, the other week I was going through, updating my settings, and there was plural female, plural male. there was this.
I shouldn't laugh. Yeah.
What is this? This is just crazy. That there are two. There is male. There is female. If you look at the animal kingdom, there's male. There's a female. They procreate. Let's not confuse it. Why have we not got this issue? Anyway, this is a mental condition. If someone doesn't identify with the form that they're in, where is that coming from? It's coming from the mind.
You know what's interesting to me, Cassie? Gay and lesbian folks whom I know, who are as old as me or older than me, they're really perplexed by this. They went through a genuine struggle in the 70s and 80s when they couldn't go out. and be seen together because they might be violently attacked, and this was genuine, and that was a serious struggle. That Andrew Pearce wrote a brilliant piece in the Mail about this when he was talking about trans politics and how crazy it's all getting. And Pearce said, we fought for the rights to be just seen as the same as everybody else and just to be left alone, and he said we've achieved that. And he said, I don't understand where this identity politics, this gender politics is coming from. And he labelled it fascism. People being told that, you can't say this, you can't say that, you could be in trouble. We've seen recently, I think, people have been arrested for misgendering because it's a bad road, this, right, to go down.
I think it all follows into the hate speech. You can't, if you're saying something, you've got hurty words now. If you're saying something that's offending someone, you can be criminally charged for offending someone. So you can't speak out about the transgender. You can't speak out about it's anything to do with freedom of speech.
Yeah. And you're not even talking about speaking out. What you mean is you can't say, well, look, I'm happy for you, I genuinely am. You should be allowed to live as you want. But you can't tell me to believe something that I don't believe.
Yeah.
I don't believe you really are a woman. Doesn't matter. I'll call you Carmel or Susan, and I couldn't give a damn really. But you can't tell me that I've got to somehow pledge allegiance to it, which is what's happening, I think, anyway. I don't want to sound like a kind of a far right, because I'm not a far right guy, but it's almost like you've got to believe this. This is the new think. And if you don't, there's something radically wrong with you. And that's why I'm worried about them getting into primary schools. Children figure this stuff out by themselves. Your young boy will more than likely get married.
You're just are confusing children. You are confusing them. There was an article I posted a couple of months ago, and it was in Brighton. Brighton School is now educating primary school kids that boys can have periods.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's insane. The absolute lunatic becomes normal. It's made to say stuff like that. Yeah.
Have you seen The Green Man in London? I saw the footage of that. You've got the Green Man, the traffic light. It's the traffic light. It's the Green Man. No, we haven't got the Green Man now. It's now a gender binary symbol sign.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I truly believe this is. If you look at like the media, TV, it's all programming. It's engineering. And if you think back into when I was a child, it was all family values. It was like Happy Days, Different Strokes, Punky Brewster. It was all real family values. Now with the social engineering of the programming, it seems to be really trendy.
Well, do you know what? That's a brilliant point. Let me just remind our listeners, Cassie Crowhurst is on the line. If you've just joined us, it's exactly 20 minutes to the top of the hour. We're going to go for another 10-15 minutes before the end of the programme. She's on Facebook as Cassie. Check her out. Entertaining and thought-provoking as well, videos that she uploads there. Big audience there as well on Facebook. You mentioned them, Little House on the Prairie, the Waltons, all that sort of stuff. Now I've noticed, and I'm not Christian, I'm an atheist, but I do notice that a lot of sitcoms, especially the new ones and the popular ones, often feature families in sitcom situations, but families that have broken up.
Yeah.
So the kids are living with mom and dad comes over. Now, yes, dad and mom do have a good relationship, but why so many where the parents are not living together? Why is that going on? I don't understand that.
I don't know. Maybe it's engineered like that. It's to break up the family unit. I think if you break up the family unit, then you can be worn down, and
normalised.
I don't know. There was an article. I think it was Parent Magazine. Someone did it. It was a post, and it was a Parent Magazine. It had a male gay couple on there, and then all the others was just the lone female with the child. And someone was highlighting what's missing. Where's the masculine? Where is the man, the mum and dad with the child? Mum and dad, 2.4 children. Now it's we're broken up the family unit. Now we have it's just confusion. I don't know. Even when you look at, have you seen that program Big Mouth that's on Netflix?
No, I haven't. No, I've got Netflix. I must check it out.
Oh my God, I haven't watched it, but obviously because I see all this sort of stuff. This thing is an animation, and it's geared to teens. It's pornographic. It's pornographic. There's no other terms to describe it. why is this being geared to such a younger generation? We are, when you see it, we're sexualizing children.
Yeah, we are.
You've got them dance competitions, dance mums, and you want to see the way these kids are dressed.
Funny you say that. Radio 5 Live was talking about one of the Kardashian children the other morning. I know nothing about the Kardashians. I doubt you do either, by the sound of it, Cassie. But apparently one of the girls is very young, but she was wearing very revealing outfit, the kind of outfit you'd expect a singer like, I don't know, Britney Spears or somebody like that to wear, and it was a bit odd. Let me read a few tweets, because we had a lot of them and I have ignored the tweets tonight. It's been busy. Faisal tweets, as far as I can see, these different weird and unheard of gender classifications are just a way of making the vast majority of normal, rational people into a besieged minority. So making the normal seem abnormal and making the abnormal seem normal. In this together, I love these Twitter names, tweets, I was in a primary school when we learned about biological reproduction. We watched a cartoon about sperms and eggs. It was boring, to be honest. What we weren't told about was sexual politics. We were left alone. So we got the basics, he says, and that was the size of that. David tweets, listening to you talking about, us talking about the primary school children being asked to think about this. David reckons they're being groomed. Now, a lot of teachers listening to this would be very annoyed by that. I understand where David is coming from. Teachers are human beings, and 99% of them want to do the best they can. And these policies are not dreamt up by teachers. They're given to teachers to enforce. They're told they must do this. It's not their fault either. But I hear very much where David is coming from. Murray tweets, Richie, I believe anyone convicted of any crime against a child should be chemically castrated because these people cannot rehabilitate. I would argue, Murray, that there is evidence that chemical castration doesn't work. There is evidence. I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I've heard it said that it doesn't work either, castrating people. And Samantha tweets, how you doing, Samantha? Richie, I work with children and I have to have all of these checks and do these safeguarding courses, yet these people are or will be getting away with it. She's talking about naturist members, not the staff, but members who can join naturist societies, but maybe are not vetted as well as they should be, a point that Cassie made a bit early on. Who'd be a parent, Cassie? Tell me, it's 7.5 minutes. No, it's not. It's 16 minutes to the top of the hour. Honest to God, if we were to have a child, I'm a fairly easygoing guy and I'm fairly relaxed. I imagine I'd be very uptight if I was a parent in the current climate. It can't be easy to be a parent now.
No, it's difficult. It's very difficult because I try to protect my children's innocence as best as I can. They're children. But obviously being aware and awake to the real world, it's not nice. And it's trying to be firefighting, to be the barrier. But like I say, when my son, like I said to him, where do you get I have to ask these questions. Where are you getting change? And you have to, and that's the other thing, going back to like the privates. We've got this whole campaign about it's your privates and no one else can touch your privates, the NSPCC, I think it is. Yet naturism, because it's naturism, we can expose the privates.
Yeah. I have a lot of sympathy for the ideals of naturism. I understand. I mean, look, being in radio for nearly over 20 years, of course I've interviewed naturists before. Way back, I've had a laugh with people asking them, because I'm very much a prude, Cassie. I'm the guy who doesn't know where to put his face. We lived in Spain for years, and occasionally we'd see nude people on the beach, and I'd absolutely crap myself. I'd be looking the other way. Where do I run? But I've interviewed. I think the ideal is a lovely one. I think it's a harmless one. You touched on something there, even the young boy going to school, the young lad playing cricket, playing a bit of basketball, a bit of soccer, and you've got to wonder, is he when he's getting changed, how is that worked out? How is it supervised? Who'd be a parent?
Exactly. But see, like you're saying, you're a prude. Richie, I am far from a prude. I am far from being a prude. But there's no way I would walk around with my private parts.
No,
out.
me neither, no.
I wouldn't. Okay, well, I haven't even gone topless, but breasts are breasts. You know, I breastfed both my kids. I'd be out. I'd breastfed in public. I had to cover up, but I'm like I say, I'm not a prude. I think it's natural. Breasts are there for breastfeeding, but the private parts. This is what one of the naturism spokespersons said actually in one of his articles. He says, "Oh, this whole thing, it's just like a nose and elbow." Do you see anyone having sexual fun with a nose and elbow? Because I don't. Because the two things we've got an issue with is the penis and the vagina.
I'm going to disagree with you there, Cassie, because I think what he's saying there is he's saying, look, that they basically they demystify the sexual organ. And naturism, by nature, as far as I understand, it's completely asexual anyway. That's what they would say, right? But I'm going to give you one. You're right. That was a terrible turn of phrase there. Jesus Christ. I'll be hammered for that. What I mean is I'm going to give it to you. You are right to say that if somebody wants to become a member of an organisation and they might be around young children, the vetting needs to be a bit better. If the Naturist Society says, well, actually, members coming in, they'll never be around children. Well, that's a different thing, but they're not saying that. And I'm going to chase this up. I'm sure you'll chase it up as well.
It's not robust, Richie. They say their spokesperson in every article, because it's getting coverage, it's been on this morning, Channel 5 talk radio that I got on, and the spokesperson says they are working with an NSPCC. They've got a robust policy. Their policy is not robust because they are falling short. How can you? And this is the thing. I've come from when I've been reporting on this. This has not been my opinion. I've not said this is an attack on British naturism. This is not an attack on naturists. This is, let's look at the evidence. For just the prime example of having a convicted paedophile was allowed to continue his membership. So a convicted paedophile was still able to get into these events.
And they didn't know, and you're saying they didn't know, and maybe it's because of the due diligence thing, because...
Yeah, because they're not checking. Yeah, it's a real downfall on it.
Nobody's going to... No decent human being is going to allow anybody near a child that's got a conviction for child abuse. There's no doubt about that. No, look, it's a fair question you've asked them. The secretary should have come back today and at least had a conversation with you. You did tell them that you were streaming it live, did you?
No.
Naughty girl. Next time you phone anybody up and you're live streaming it, you've got a duty to tell them. Do you hear me? You got to tell them.
Okay, naughty.
Well, hey, look, we've all done it, but yeah, look, they should have still come back and said to you, okay, we take this on board. We'll have a look at it or whatever. It still doesn't change the fact that it seems that this event is going ahead in Stoke in a month or just under a month, and it's open to the public. Is that how it stands at the moment?
As it stands, yes. We've had no response back. The director of Waterworld, because Waterworld are saying that they've got nothing to do with this. They're just hiring their facilities out. And the argument that we've got, well, you've obviously got policies and procedures in place for the type of event that you want to take in place. I couldn't hire that place out and have like loads of alcohols, have an orgy there for what? No, because it wouldn't be applicable to their terms and conditions. So there is a contract in place. Now, Tim Keeley, he's the director of Waterworld. He has not responded. He's not responded. No one has responded. We've gone to the police, and the police are saying it's a private matter. We're not going to get involved unless there's actual evidence of harm to a child. We've gone to the local authority. We couldn't even get through to their safeguarding department. It was passed to their media department, and they're saying these events have been going on for 27 years. It's private. So no one's is picking up, no one's dealing with this issue. And I don't believe it has had the attention that it has had, because most people are not dot connecting. Like I say, I only picked up this. I've been aware of naturism and thought, okay, this is just some people, that's what they're into. Okay, fine, that's fair enough. But when you're connecting, well, actually, hold on a minute. We've got convicted paedophiles, an ex-director who's a convicted paedophile. We've got a paedophile that was allowed entry. There is no due diligence. So they've highlighted on their safeguarding policy that it's going to be infiltrated. And that is the group we've set up. There's a group that's set up that I've been helping. It's called Protecting Children from British Naturism. It's a Facebook group. And it clearly states on there...
It's not a great name now, Cassie. That's very confrontational, the name of that Facebook group, isn't it? It's unfair, because while you've highlighted these cases, they are probably about the percentage of cases that you'd expect for any group of individuals, whether it's a cycling club or whatever. I think that Facebook, it's a bit confrontational, a bit unfair. I'd rather work with people. You've identified a genuine concern.
Yeah.
And I'd rather that they came back to you and to people like you, because you're not alone, and said, okay, maybe we're a little bit outdated when it comes to background checks and stuff like that, because it's genuine. I wouldn't be... Listen, I'm no angel now. I've made a million mistakes. And so whoever's put that Facebook page up, it's a little bit... to say protecting children from British naturists, that's a bit unfair, I would have said.
Well, it's infiltrated. If you look at the cover, it says protecting children from infiltrated British naturism. Because this is where the angle is. This is, like we say, this is not an attack on naturism. This is, as they've stated in their safeguarding policy, they are going to be infiltrated by people with a sexual interest in children. And most people, when you speak to them, do you think that it's okay to have naked children at these events? They will tell you, no, it's not okay. Like, if children are going to be there, cover up, or really, ideally, it should be for over 18s.
Or just make sure that it is completely safe. You know, I mean, I know there's an argument to be had about children. One of our listeners tweeted that, you know, it's kind of indoctrination, bringing the children along. The children don't consent. There is that argument. I've heard it before. I'm kind of sympathetic to that argument, but we were all indoctrinated. I mean, I talked to you today about this, religion and all the rest of it. It'd be very interesting to see what they say when they come back, because I think there might be a little bit of outdated practice there that could be looked at. Again, I think you're absolutely right to raise it. You seem to have gone about it the right way, Cassie, so fair enough. But others, I mean, if people have been shouting paedophile at naturists, that's just outrageous and it's wrong and it shouldn't happen. You know, you're not going to get anything out of anybody.
No, and that's what I've kind of said with the other people. If we're going to actually go, you know, raise awareness on this, it's got to be done in the right way, and it's got to be seen as professional, and we've got to stick to the facts. We've got to just stick to the facts and highlight that we've got real downfalls in safeguarding. And you can't accuse, because there are genuine naturists out there that don't look at children,
the majority,
like that,
of
that
course.
enjoy that liberation of going to these events. And it's good that, you know, that there are events where people that's what they want to do, that these events have been created for them. That's absolutely fine, you know. But we keep coming back to the point is that children are involved in these events, and I'll keep saying it again. If British naturism have identified that is a risk, but they're failing to really go, they should be going over and above, and it shouldn't be. Oh, in case, because that's what happened on the radio when they cut me off and they had the lady on there. I can't remember the lady's name, and she said, "Oh, we seem to be going over and talk in case there might be a might." Well, that's cutting the risk out.
Well, it's a miserable old reality, and the fact is, you've got to look upon might as, you've got to say very possible, rather than might. And if it's very possible, you've got to, you've got to double down on your diligence in vetting people who might be around children, even if that's members. They absolutely say that any volunteers, any workers, any staff are vetted. We're just about out of time. It's flown by, Cassie. It's very interesting that. It genuinely is. I'm going to give them a shout in the morning, see can I get them on the programme tomorrow evening. They've indicated that they want to come on for right of reply, so I'll have a chat about it.
That would be good.
Well, of course,
I
will put all of those points to them that you've made today, if and when they do come on. Folks, Cassie's on Facebook if you want to find out more about her. If today is the first time that you've encountered her, it's Cassie Crowhurst. That's Crowhurst. There's no other. So if you look for her on Facebook, you'll find her. And she interacts, she connects with people there, and she'll talk back to you. Puts these live streams on that have, as I said, a very healthy audience covering all manner of topics. Big shout to John Wedger for connecting us as well, by the way. Thanks, Cassie. Really appreciate it. And do come back again.
I will do. Thank you for having me on.
Anytime. Bye for now, Cassie. That was Cassie Crowhurst live on the line there from her home. I will, endeavour to get comment from the British Naturist associations and groups like that for tomorrow's programme. That's about it. We're right bang out of time. Big shout out to Gilad Atzmon and to Cassie Crowhurst, our guests today. Back with you live tomorrow at 5 on the usual channels. Until then, I'm going to leave you with the Cranberries and the great Dolores O'Riordan. Beautiful tune this. Look after yourselves and one another. Speak tomorrow. Until then, bye from me, eh? See you. Bye now. The programme, of course, on Spotify, iTunes. It's on Podomatic, and it'll be on YouTube in about 90 minutes' time. No rest for the wicked. All right, see you tomorrow. Bye.